and I look forward to hopefully being invited to future ones as a participant. So I was really, first of all, an apology, I was really hoping that I would be able to bring somebody from the business with me, but as an HR business partner, I am part of the senior leadership team for Halifax Community Bank South East region. So I'm hoping, because I have got a business background, I can actually talk quite confidently from what it actually feels like in the business as well. So just want to really kind of focus on the first two things on here, the three things. Just give you a little bit of background in terms of Lloyds Bank, just to give you a feel for how big, the kind of context in terms of our size. Just to give you a little brief understanding about flexible working for us and what that means within Lloyds Bank Group. But I think probably the thing I really want to focus on is like the changing needs of retail banking, and specifically within Halifax Community Bank. So a little bit about Lloyds. There's a description of us up there. We do touch probably most households, I would say, and communities across the UK. We are a UK primarily kind of focused bank. Just to put some kind of context around that, we've actually got 2,265 branches. We employ just under 100,000 people. As you probably know, that we used to be Lloyds TSB and Halifax Bank of Scotland, but we've had to crunch two organisations together, so we were much bigger than that, had about 160,000 people working for us. So you can see we've been through some really rapid kind of change. We've got nearly 29 million customers across our three brands, which is Halifax, Lloyds and Bank of Scotland. We've got 6 million insurance customers, so insurance is quite an interesting area for us. Our history is we're nearly, well, just over 300 years old. I think Bank of Scotland is our oldest brand, so we've got a huge amount of history. If anyone's ever been up to any of the offices in London, you walk in and there is literally the whole history on the front walls of the offices, which is quite interesting. I think banking has changed quite a lot in those 300 years. I have to say, sometimes some of the people that I work with, it feels like they've been working there for 300 years. And if I hear that, I've worked these hours, you know, for the past 25 years, yeah, it feels like 300. So, but we are rapidly changing, so we're the largest provider of digital products in the banking world. We take 68 million calls to our call centres, but that is changing, and actually the volumes are starting to drop off as customers can self-serve through IDR. 60% of our customers self-serve, so very different, and they've got some challenges in that area, and that is an area in call centres where we have got a lot of history of people working kind of fairly flexibly, because we know volumes go up and down. In terms of what, I know everybody hates banks, but what would we do without it? Could you imagine? I mean, we actually process each year 2.5 billion payments are processed every year just through us alone. So you imagine all the other banks doing that as well. And that actually values £36 trillion every year that we're moving money that we're moving around to people. We are quite a lean organisation, so we're down to 7 layers, so hierarchical. We've had some real challenges. We've got a Portuguese chief executive who came in and said, you know, you're 8, 9, 10, and probably more layers isn't good enough, so we've really had to flatten our structures. And that has given us some challenges, especially in some of the larger operational areas. From a flexible working in Lloyds Banking Group, do you know, I was trying to think when we actually started flexible working. I'm not going to tell you how long I've worked there for, because it's a long time. So, but that has always been something that we've done. In terms of rated it, I think probably, you know, we've got some areas that were absolutely fantastic, but we've got some pockets there. Dare I say, I think the retailer division are one of the pockets where, you know, a branch manager is very much isolated, out on their own, working in their branch, and perhaps, you know, where you've got the bigger areas, like the operational areas, where they've got a lot of support and management, and they can talk about things, and they're a lot more visible, they're probably better at it. But those are the types of things that we do, so reduced hours, probably, you know, our biggest area. term time working, it's a great idea, and we do it, and it does work really well. Where it falls down is that actually once people have got term time working, they never want to let it go. And it's such a shame because it does spoil it for other people. Job sharing, I've got, within the South East Division, we've got lots of branch managers that actually job share. So, and it's something that, we do not want to lose that talent. So the challenges around that is making sure that we can find people that match, and we've got that consistency for the staff. So, variable hours, call centres primarily, I would say, do this because we don't want the bog standard kind of 9 to 5, and we are actually happy to speak to people because our volumes do tend to kind of change and actually speak to them. Compressed hours, so one of the downsides of compressed hours, there's lots of really, really positive things, but you look around the offices and you think on Friday, or you try and speak to someone and it's always their non-working day. So, great that we do these things, but actually we need to get better at managing them in terms of, look, more than happy to support you with that, but, actually it doesn't have to be a Friday to make sure that you get some consistency there. The one I think that's kind of growing, we call it teleworking, but actually it's kind of doing home working. And actually a lot of the head office functions have drastically reduced for us because, we've got laptops, we've got Blackberries, we've got mobiles. A lot of us now are worked and encouraged to work from home because obviously it saves company costs on property, etc. I'm not sure my husband was that happy when we had that cold winter a couple of times and the heating bills kind of shot up. But I'm very lucky. I work for somebody who absolutely, has that philosophy. I don't mind you working. If I see emails from you at 9 o'clock at night, but I would be expecting that if you want to go and get your hair done, on a Friday for a couple of hours, that you actually do that. So, yes, we've got the bog standard, we've got a fantastic intranet site, a lot of organisations often do, we've got our policy statement, detailed processes, we do provide educational support, a lot of it is e-learning, so you have to rely on the trust of people. We do a lot with we've got diversity inclusion network, so we've got links on there that will actually link through to some of those networks and set areas that will actually help them around, things like parenting, mentors, people they can speak to potentially about, if you're coming up with a situation, is there someone that you can talk to and find out how to work for them. Yes, we've got an application process. It's open to, it has been open to anybody, permanent, fixed or trial period. Line managers don't always get it right, and this is probably what we're finding because we've been doing it for such a long time. People think, I've got an application from someone that's a parent, and I've got to agree to everything that they want to, and actually. What we're trying to encourage people to do is really sit down and have those adult conversations to say, we'd really like to help you with this, and we can do it, but it might mean you're working in a different branch, or it might be working, one of the different days, because actually, our peak times are Mondays, Fridays and Saturdays. So it's about having those discussions. It does cause us problems later on down the line. So I'm frequently having conversations about people where they're saying, I've got a real shortage here, and it's because they've agreed to everything that everybody's wanted without commercially taking a sit back and thinking, actually, what will it do to my business? Or the people that's, potentially left around them. Quite interesting, obviously, listening to the conversations earlier. I can assure you that graduates and a lot of our new joiners, our younger kind of generation, absolutely, that is one of the things that they're looking for. So, and they tell us that, and they will go if you can't help them. We've found. So gone are the days when you expect a graduate to work anywhere in the country, 6 months up their life and move that, because they've got a lot of challenges, especially with high tuition fees. They still need to be fairly close at home to live with mum and dad and to be funded. So the other things, just so you're in, so you know, the other things graduates are telling us that they're really keen to come and work for us because we do quite a lot with the community, and it actually fits in with flexible work. And what we're finding is that we put a lot of precedence on actually doing stuff for the community. So But people off the back of that, they've got excited and they want to do more, they want to give back more. So actually a lot of our flexible working requests are because they do want to spend a day either mentoring somebody or working in a home, or just doing something which is where they're not getting paid to do. So, what does banking look like at the moment? These are our external environment. We're obviously, very keen to kind of keep an eye on what's actually happening in terms of, what our competitors are finding. And because of the technology and digital world, our footfall in our branches is actually dropping off quite dramatically. So there's obviously some comments there from some of our competitors. We've noticed that some of them are changing the shape and size of their organisation. I think you'll never not see your bank on the high street, because we absolutely recognise there is a need to do that. But that does give us quite a few challenges with the nervousness of our staff as they see volumes dropping off and us reducing kind of numbers down for them. From us as a retail network, our footfalls and our counter transactions are reducing. I don't know if anyone's been into a bank recently, but you'll probably see more and more machines in there. In fact, actually HSBC, I think a lot of their pop-up places are all machines. Funnily enough, I was with the managing director for Halifax yesterday, and he was actually talking about the deposit machine that you can pay. That's another member of staff now. I'm not quite sure how the staff will see that. That's what he's trying to encourage us to see, is actually how we run a branch and how we choreograph the branch to make a really great experience for the customer. Is actually that's part of your resources and your team now. And I'm really not sure what the unions would say about that if they heard him talking about that. We do, we have a huge amount of pressure on us to reduce numbers. We've got to save costs. We think we're, as an organisation as Halifax, we've got the right number of branches that we need. We think we've got the right number of staff. We can't see, next year us taking huge amounts of people out of the front office. It's usually the back offices where we take out. But staff generally are starting to feel the pinch. And it is around when people want to take a holiday, and you have got people that are working flexibly that's causing some of the issues. But we are obviously in business to make money. And because we are quite an established organisation, what happens is we're not very smart sometimes at actually reviewing where we are and updating things and changing things and having a conversation with people. So in terms of that external kind of environment and internal environment, what does it mean for kind of us? And we do have plans. In fact, that's what was yesterday, planning meeting. So Halifax is our challenger brand. So what would I say about Halifax? I've worked there for a year. The colleagues that work in it are so passionate about the brand and fiercely loyal. I think it's a shame sometimes that some of our issues are caused by perhaps some of our overzealous kind of managers, because they absolutely want to do the right thing and put the customer at the heart of everything that they do. You will find that actually if you sit down with them and say, look, we've got this problem, what do you think? They'll be full of ideas because they really do see it as their family and they're part of the community. They do know a lot of the customers, come in, day out. They do a lot. So I don't know if anyone's ever been across to Halifax where they've got their love cake sale, where they're trying to raise money for their chosen charity. So from us, we're right size, definitely. We want to see ourselves that we've got that presence on the high street, and we want to support our current straightforward 9 to 5 model, but actually we're a little bit more than 9 to 5 because we do open on Saturdays. However, we've got to remain profitable. There's changes in the way people are doing things. So year on year, we're noticing a 10% decrease in footfall because people are becoming more digitally enabled. This is quite a challenging one for us. In our current issues that we've got, we get every time I sit down with the union, the top of their list is that we haven't got enough staff in the branches. You're causing stress for people because they can't even have a lunch break. And it's quite, genuinely it's quite serious because actually in the bank we've got a lot of money and there's lots of risk associated with it. And we do get, I think it was probably my second week, someone rang me and said, we've had a branch raid. It was like, oh my God, I've always worked in back office functions. What am I supposed to do as an HR professional? Should I be there? Actually, I'm supposed to be a strategic partner, the door rush along and go and see them. But that's quite a frequent thing for them, and you just don't hear it in the press or the media very often now, so I tend to kind of keep it fairly quiet. So unions are definitely, that's always the thing that's on the top of their agenda. But our data and management information is telling us actually we've got the right numbers of people. What we think we've got is the right number of people, but probably not in the right places. And so what we decided to do is pick three kind of key areas across the UK, and South East was one of those regions that have agreed to pilot it. It's the South Downs area, so all local to us. But we wanted to look at something where we could look at flexible working and to see if it would benefit customers, colleagues, and obviously the business overall, because if you get those two things right, the business naturally kind of succeeds. And we will, so far the indications we're getting is the right thing to do, so we will look to roll it out in the new year. So our pilot included two aspects. So flexible working and improving our alignment of resource to match customer demand. And if possible, we were looking to try and do some small extensions. So one of the challenges we have is we have some branches on Saturday open close at 12, some that close at 1, some that close at 3. I mean, gosh, how confusing for customers, you never know if you're coming or going. Staff feel quite annoyed about it because we've got some people that work till 12 and get a whole day off. Some people work till 3 and don't get any time off. So it was a great opportunity for us to really have a good look at all the working patterns and the hours that we actually had. Probably where we started was we've been very clear at involving our unions. We have 3 unions that we have to face into. 2 of them work together. Our Lloyds union will do their own thing. However, Halifax, because it's primarily a HBOS organisation, most of them are with the 2 unions that work together, so it's quite easy to get them in the room together and talk to them about what you're doing. So we did include them, and I actually encouraged the local director, because this was very much business-led, to sit down with these local reps and tell them first about some of the things that were happening, so we would cut out any of the stories. Our central operating office provided some really great data for them. So what they provided was heat maps to say, this is when your customers are coming in, and this is where you've got, we've overlaid that, working with each of the branches, this is when your staff are coming in. And what we found was that when the branch, through the training and the communication, the branch managers picked up these heat maps, it was like, oh my God, I know I've been struggling on a Monday and everybody's under pressure, but now I can see that. Actually, I feel like I've got something that I can actually sit down and talk to the colleagues about, actually we've got the wrong people in the wrong place. We made sure that branch managers owned and delivered it, so they delivered kind of one-to-ones. There was no forced change, so even if we might have had a gap, if someone wasn't willing to put their hand up or say, do you know what, actually, I've been doing that and I would quite like to do that because I'd like a different day off. That's the way that we went. So it was all by voluntarily people kind of changing or putting their hands up. The thing that we noticed is a lot of the colleagues were coming back and saying to us, I would have loved to change my hours a while ago, but I just didn't know how to ask, or I didn't think it would go down well. So The results so far, our first survey in the first month, we found that 2/3 of colleagues said that they found that it was benefiting them, they were less stressed. It was nice to see that actually certain people won't run off their feet on certain days, and then they could have the days off that actually probably suited them a little bit more. There was definitely less queuing in the building because they had better staffing, so there was less pressure on them. Branch managers, in the past, they've always really struggled, or the perception was they were going to struggle to kind of get people to change their working hours. But because they had this piece of information, they could sit down as a team in one of their morning meetings and say, this is the situation, this is when our customers need us to be in. What do you think? A lot of them were saying, oh, well, actually I'd quite like to move, my day to Monday and have a day off in the middle of the week, because actually I could do a lot of things are going to be less busy then. So they naturally got the shift of people, whereas in the past, where they've just gone out and said, would anybody mind changing, it just didn't happen. So definitely the inclusion piece was really, really important, and that was a big piece of training that we did with them in terms of sitting down and asking people. We also had some changes in work location. Because we looked at this as a bigger region, actually we got some people a bit closer to home, rather than each individual branch just looking at how many people that they actually needed. And then finally, our branch managers have been far more open to recruiting people on a reduced hours contract, because actually we don't need people Monday to Friday. They've suddenly seen it in front of them. On a Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, they've got people twiddling their thumbs almost, so they're not getting the appointments into the customers. So actually we've noticed we've gone very much away from that. When we advertise, we are actually looking for people that can work kind of specific hours. And then the most important thing for me is it's all quite on the union front. So they don't know what to moan at me about now, because it was always kind of top of their list in terms of, this is causing us a problem. But actually, again, having that data to sit down and talk to them about, that was the thing that actually, enabled us to have some really good conversations about, we want to do this and we are not forcing any changes. It's just a great opportunity for people to look and actually see if there's, if they do want to change their hours, because things have changed for them.